Before initiating PSE change approaches in a corner store, it is important to have a good understanding of your community. We want to understand the attitudes, perceptions, beliefs, knowledge, and practices that people have within a particular community. One way to gain this understanding is by conducting a community needs assessment. A community needs assessment is a process for determining current conditions and the conditions that people in the community want to see in the future. It is an essential process to bringing the community into your intervention planning so that your intervention reflects the needs and expressed desires of community members. A few overarching questions to address in a needs assessment for a corner store intervention are: what does the community food environment look like? What do people do now? What can be reinforced? How do we best communicate with people? Who should we be communicating to? What messages make sense? And what channels should we use to communicate? There are many methods that vary in resources required to assessing needs within a community. When possible, it may be helpful to use a variety of methods and to break a community needs assessment into stages to collect information from community members and to gain feedback during the development of an intervention. For example, in the first stages of community needs assessment, we may want to use methods such as direct observation to assess what the community food environment looks like. This method requires relatively few resources, as one person would walk around the community, typically with a clipboard or a tablet PC, and document where corner stores are located or other food sources, what kinds of foods are available and prices of those foods in the corner stores or those other food sources. Another primary method for collecting information is in-depth interviews. These are one-on-one intensive interviews with a small number of key stakeholders. Some topics for discussion for in-depth interviews for your healthier corner store intervention may include food sources. Where do people get their food right now? Social norms about foods. What are the important or the main meals that people consumed? Where are those meals consumed? What are the common foods that are part of those meals? Make sure that you're asking open-ended questions to elicit the most information from your stakeholders and come prepared with probing questions in order to dive deeper into topics of interest. Once you acquire information from your community in these earlier stages of your needs assessment, you can begin to draft intervention materials. At a later stage of a needs assessment, you could conduct a focus group. Focus groups are guided discussions with a facilitator and a group of individuals that will receive the intervention. It permits the opportunity to review and refine draft intervention materials. Assessing community needs certainly requires time and resources, which can be challenging. Using a variety of methods at different stages is not always feasible. If you were to select one method, I would highly encourage holding a community workshop if one has not already been conducted. Community workshops are one example of an approach to engage a diverse group of stakeholders within a community and allows them to interact and share their knowledge, experiences, and ideas. This method is especially useful for a collaborative intervention plan where community members have direct input into the intervention plan and design. These are typically day-long, highly intensive, and productive workshops. Let me say a few more words about this key method. The first part of a community workshop is to give everyone the opportunity to share their story. Community members often share their lives and give insights into the limitations and barriers they face within that particular community. Giving this opportunity to share at the beginning also helps build rapport and participants' comfort levels. So be an active listener. Repeat what you're hearing in your own words to get confirmation that you're understanding correctly. We also like to take notes on what people are saying on flip charts. This publicly validates what they are saying, encourages further sharing, and often provides early insights into key issues. Next is a more directive activity where the facilitator of the community workshop asks the members of the workshop to share a list of all the foods that are a problem in the community. Community members are encouraged to brainstorm and piggyback off others' ideas. Get community workshop participants engaged and let them shout out all the problem foods while the facilitator lists them on a flip chart. No judgment should be applied here. Write down whatever they say. Once you have about 50 to 100 problem foods listed on the walls, provide everyone with 10 to 15 sticky dots or some other form of marker. This is an initial step in prioritizing. You'll ask community members to apply those sticky dots to the flip charts to indicate those foods they think are most important problem foods that should be worked on as part of the intervention. After that, you would add up all the dots for each food and take the 5 to 7 top voted problem foods and present them to the group. Now you want to know what would be the culturally and economically acceptable alternative to those problem foods. For example, if the top problem food was soda pop, you, as a facilitator, would then ask, what would be the preferred and most affordable alternatives to soda pop? Allow your participants to brainstorm a list of alternatives and employ the same sort of voting system again to prioritize and select the culturally and economically appropriate healthy alternatives to promote in your intervention. Additional rounds of brainstorming and voting can be used to identify messages and appropriate communications channels as well. At the end of the day, the community workshop room is typically covered with flip chart pages all over the walls, reflecting the results of these brainstorming and voting sessions. Community members are able to see the work they have been doing all day and the solutions they have selected. This gives a sense of ownership and community buy-in from the very beginning. Make sure to provide a written summary report to all the participants of the community workshop and show the rankings of healthy alternatives to identify the foods you're going to promote, and then ask small stores to stock these foods as part of your Healthier Corner Store intervention. Now, of course, it's always possible that a previous needs assessment has been conducted and may be available for your use. But if it's not available, make sure to choose a method or a variety of methods that fit within your budget and person power. A good needs assessment can provide you with key information such as, first, a prioritized list of items that community members are interested in having access to within food stores. Second, it can provide a broader context or understanding of the factors that influence food shopping or food selection behavior within the community and your target audience. Third, it can provide ideas for culturally appropriate messaging. Fourth, it can provide reactions to intervention materials and strategies that allows you to refine those materials and strategies. And finally, it can provide guidance on how to sustain the program. In some cases, this information can be referred to for potential future programming in the same or similar communities.